The Clone Wars has come to an end. I'm John Berry and welcome to my review of the final episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars, that being the 12th episode of the 7th season, Victory and Death. As I said, this is the final episode of The Clone Wars as a series. Some people speculate that we might get some more one-off episodes. I don't think that's very likely. That doesn't mean they won't have more visual stories from the Clone Wars. Like, I would love a new Clone Commander video game, or maybe even featuring the Bad Batch. It doesn't matter. Like, I wouldn't mind more content, but I still think this is the end of the Clone Wars as a series. They'll still be telling stories, of course. And, well, I expected the episode to be a bit longer for some reason. And it wasn't really any longer or shorter than the average episodes of Clone Wars. But what I think contributed to that feeling of length is that it didn't stop, if that makes sense. It never really slowed down. And even in some of the slower moments, you don't realize that the episode necessarily slowed down. You do know it slowed down, but your sense of time doesn't adjust, if that makes any sense. But, some things obviously happen. Maul escapes, Ahsoka and Rex escape. We know that's going to happen. And it did. And of course, Maul escapes on his own, or he takes the shuttle that Rex and Ahsoka were going for and leaves them on the Star Destroyer. Not that, no. I would expect that from Maul. If you remember, in one of the previous reviews, I mentioned that I have begun to see Maul as an anti-hero, an anti-villain, rather than a pure villain or regular antagonist. Just an anti-villain, still antagonistic towards the good guys, but kind of the idea the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of deal, but you still don't really trust him. That's confirmed, because an anti-hero would have come back, so Han Solo, he kind of fits the mold of an anti-hero. He would have come back in that situation. Maul, being an anti-villain, still doesn't, because he is ultimately a villain. Not the typical villain, but still a villain, nevertheless. And of course, Ahsoka does try to use the Force to hold the shuttle back, and of course it doesn't work because she needs to stop in order to help Rex fend off the clones. She has to use her lightsabers to do that, and she really can't divide her concentration at all. So Maul escapes, and it did almost seem like if Ahsoka maybe had held out for a few more seconds, Maul would have relented. But that probably would have been more like, if I don't help them, I'm never going to get out kind of mentality, and that's the right thing to do. So does that make sense? But Ahsoka basically gives up on the one chance of escaping in order to protect Rex from the clones. And and we do get one of the slower moments is between Ahsoka and Rex. They're standing above the hangar bay, so kind of in the hangar bay's control room. Ahsoka takes off Rex's helmet, and you can see tears going down his face. This is hard for him. Executing Order 66 was hard for him, as we saw in the previous episode, where from physically he's trying to struggle and resist it. And but also, even though now he knows what he's doing is the right thing, he has to protect himself, it's still kind of very much hurting him and tearing him up on the inside. And, and of course Ahsoka does tell him earlier on to set his pistols to stun, though Rex is kind of nah, he does it, but he kind of does complain about, they're trying to kill us, kind of deal. Though probably actually setting it to stun probably does help him in the long run, as we can see from that scene I just discussed. And the need to get off the ship, considering what Maul has done. And what did he do? Well, he entered the hyperdrive control room, and he used the Force to physically bring the hyperdrive down. Now, some people say that Starkiller was OP for being able to use the Force to bring an entire Star Destroyer down. Well, he did that on planetside. Maul, he does it from within the ship, and then escapes too. Okay, that's kind of silly, but that's why, that's literally popped into my head while doing that. Not to mention I did get some Force Unleashed vibes in the previous episode of how Maul was basically taking out the clones. And speaking of Maul, in the previous episode he de-arms, because it isn't Star Wars without somebody losing an arm. He de-arms the clone trooper and takes the clone trooper's kind of wrist thing that includes communication devices, so Maul is able to listen in on what the clones are saying. Why and Ahsoka and Rex don't do that, I don't know. I guess they just didn't think of it. You know, a lot of emotions going on. But I had a feeling like Maul's going to take that and wear it so he'll know what's going on. I just had that thought in the previous episode and I was writing this episode. And actually, you could consider that a callback to an earlier Clone Wars episode which featured Ahsoka as well, where Sarge Ventress boards a Ventress Star Destroyer and with a bunch of droids, and they take out the clones in the hangar, and she takes one of the wrist communicators or comlink I should say, and is able to listen in on what's being transmitted to the clones. So you could consider that a callback, as I said. The droids do help, but unfortunately the droids do not survive. Looks like all 7 actually got... I've watched the scene a couple times and it's kind of hard to tell, but it looks like all 7 purposely gets in the way of a blaster bolt to protect Ahsoka. That's what it does look like from my perspective. And the other 2 droids, well, yeah, they were basically executed by the clones. Like, not even so much they got in the way of the firefight, but no, the clones deliberately targeted them. Yeah, because they were helping Ahsoka and Rex. And she'll probably talk about the entire scene in the hangar, not just what the droids did. Which, by the way, they were basically the clones were staying on some lifts that go down to the maintenance area, and the droids were dropping them and raising them at the most opportune time in order to help Ahsoka and Rex. But the starting hangar scene, so what do? Well, Ahsoka and Rex enter the hangar basically in a ruse, because there's a bunch of clones there and they knew there's no way they could fight them all until the droids got in position to lower the lifts, to reduce the number. And so basically Rex pretends to have captured Ahsoka. And of course the clones are all led by Jesse, who, yeah, he's still being controlled by Order 66 and the inhibitor chip, which I still think now is more of a control chip. And anyhow, so Rex basically attempts to delay, saying, hold your fire, I've captured Ahsoka Tano. And then Jesse says, do your duty and execute her, or I'm not quite sure, was he referring to the Order or Ahsoka, and which pronoun he used. It's blanking on my head as I'm recording. I should have probably checked that and wrote it down. But anyhow, Rex basically tries to do the most, But what did the Order say? Eliminate all Jedi. Ahsoka's not a Jedi anymore. She hasn't been for some time. Fortunately, it doesn't work, but it does give most of the clones a pause. So perhaps if, they have been able to, keep talking for even longer, maybe some of them would have started snapping out of Order 66. And that kind of stuff. But, it does show that even with an inhibitor chip, a clone could still maybe be gotten through to the pre-Order 66 self. We did see that in the Kanan comic, where a clone did eventually snap out of Order 66 and break off the control of the inhibitor chip. So it's not impossible, I would just say improbable. And of course, it might have actually worked, but again, as I said, they were kind of in a time crunch with that many clones there. Yeah, it'd be hard to risk it. And of course, eventually it just doesn't work out and they have to go with the original plan, and boom, 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 Maul comes in, takes the shuttle, and what do? Well, they're being basically surrounded, and Ahsoka uses the Force to spin her lightsabers around them to cut a hole in the floor, so that way they go down the maintenance bay, and the droids bring the lifts back up so they have less clones down there to deal with. And, well, they go on to steal a blue-painted Y-Wing, which I thought was just neat, because most Y-Wings we've seen have been yellow. So it's nice to see another color blue. And I think that might have been done on purpose. But I should say, when Maul was trying to escape, he first pushed Ahsoka down one of those lifts. And so Ahsoka and Rex and the droids have to get Ahsoka out. And of course Ahsoka's helping as well while deflecting blaster bolts. So, yeah, it is a chaotic situation. But they do get out, and that's when Ahsoka does try to stop Maul. And I'm jumping around a bit and back to what I said earlier. But just some of these things like pop into my head and I ramble sometimes. But let's just get back to the review. Anyhow, so let's go back to the Y-Wing, shall we? And, well, Ahsoka uses the Force to make sure Rex gets to the Y-Wing. He, starts the activation sequence, because that's the only ship down there that's not in maintenance. And then Ahsoka takes her chance and starts to jump, but right at that point, the Star Destroyer, which at that point had been caught in the gravity well of a moon and was, going down, they entered the atmosphere at this point, and, well, first of all, the clones in the bridge tried to fire the retro rockets, and, yeah, they're offline, and that doesn't work, and the ship's further breaking apart, and so, right as Ahsoka's jumping, basically, the Y-Wing is basically released from its not frame, but it's, the word I think I'm looking for is, it's, in a way, harness, and it goes flying back behind the Star Destroyer. Eventually, Rex is able to gain control of the Y-Wing and pilots it, and tries to line it up so Ahsoka can get in. Opens up the bubble turns hatch. Ahsoka briefly grabs on but loses his grip, and does, some fancy Jedi stuff, running along some debris, and then they're able to line up. Ahsoka's able to jump, actually get a hold of the Y-Wing and pull herself into the cockpit, and the Vento crashes down to the surface. So yeah, a lot does happen, but that's not the end of the episode. One more thing about that Y-Wing before I continue. It looks more like one of the Rebel Y-Wings than one of the Republic Y-Wings, mainly because a lot of the paneling has already been stripped from it. Likely because it's in the maintenance bay, but I do kind of like the idea that the Y-Wing that Ahsoka and Rex used to escape looks more like one of the Rebel Y-Wings than the Republic Y-Wings, which I think is a nice visual continuity thing, or just reference, if you will. But, apparently, I guess, circle around for a little bit, and then they land on the planet, and they go to bury all the clones. Well, at least some of the clones. I don't know if they could have buried the entire crew of Event. After all, there's thousands of crew members. But they definitely do bury at least some. The ones who were, it's implied the ones who were in the hangar, including Jesse, because we recognize his helmet. And yeah, I should also say Jesse declares Rex a traitor. So, to the Grand Army of the Republic, not even the Republic, just the Grand Army of the Republic. Which is kind of interesting. But that's a whole nother matter. So yeah, they bury it, and apparently there's a shovel on the Y-Wing. And the droids are, and they position the droids kind of, I don't know, all sevens is placed near the Y-Wing, but it's clear all three droids, and you can see the other two in the far out shot, where you get to see a larger view. Clear are also positioned, but only R7 is the only one you can really make out. Maybe they tried to fix the droids. R7 might have been the best case, but unfortunately, no. But yeah, and then I guess they leave the planet. Ahsoka does leave her lightsaber there. Probably that way in case the Republic Empire does come and investigate the crash. They'll find her lightsaber and assume that she died in the crash, and that either her body was, vaporized somehow during the crash, or had just decayed on the planet. something like that, just to give the impression that she died in the crash. While with Rex, they don't do anything like bearing, false set of armor or anything like they did, with the original story idea that was revealed to us at a celebration. Which I think actually works better, because considering in Rebels, Rex is briefly captured by the Empire and they scan his number, and they don't say that he was dead. So that probably just strongly implies that they probably just had him listed as missing in action or something. It's hard to tell. But then the scene transitions to an Imperial Shuttle landing on that same planet. But now it's winter with snow. So yes, we get confirmation that there are seasons on Star Wars planets. And there can be multiple biomes and weather patterns. But they land on so the shuttle lands on the planet, and we see some snowtroopers and 4 droids. And then, of course, we also see some stormtroopers not in snowtrooper getup. Why? I don't know. I guess just to show off their soldiers, because they're probably, sergeants and officers. But the Imperials are investigating the crash of that Vento. Obviously, I was sometime after the formation of the Empire. How long, I don't know. But long enough for the clone troopers' helmets to be severely impacted by the weather. And long enough for Darth Vader to be in his suit. Because we start hearing breathing. Darth Vader's breathing. And he goes and finds Ahsoka's lightsaber, kneels down, picks it up, lights it, brushes it, just no offer, then lights it, I should say. And then walks away. No dialogue. In fact, after Ahsoka and Rex basically get into the Y-Wing, after Ahsoka does, that's when basically we get music only, there's no dialogue whatsoever. And even as Rex is piloting the Y-Wing to pick up Ahsoka, the dialogue had pretty much ended once they got off the Vento. But once they've landed on the planet to bury the clones, that's when I would say the true no dialogue begins. And it continues through the rest of the episode and then ends. So yes, we do get to see Darth Vader, but I do kind of like how it's done, because remember, Star Wars Rebels, when Vader senses Ahsoka, he says, "The apprentice lives." Now we know that at that point he had Ahsoka's lightsaber, so he may have just wondered about whether or not Ahsoka survived, because that's all he had for confirmation. It's hard to tell, but it does frame some new light on that interaction in Star Wars Rebels, and there are other interactions as well. Now, there's a few other things I would like to discuss about the episode. First is the music, which I would just like to say is spectacular. It's very well done. The opening music was still, I would say, in a minor key ensemble, but it was different than the previous episode, which was, I would say, much more quiet than this episode's introduction, which I think is kind of interesting, and I think does to show the previous episode they wanted to have more a foreboding opening, while here they want a somber but more hyper opening, if that makes sense. That's what I think they were going for. And then, of course, we can talk about the other elements of music, like when Ahsoka asks all 7 to open the hangar bay doors, the music, it reminded me of some other sci-fi property. There was it was like, how do I describe it? I don't know how to vocalize the sound, but think 2 loud bongs. Bong, bong. That's kind of the pattern the music took. And it's just reminded me of something. I had a little bit of inclination of 2001: A Space Odyssey, because there was the line, Hal opened the pod bay doors, all 7 opened the hangar bay doors. So I can see maybe a little parallel there, but I don't know if the music came from 2001: A Space not the music, but the musical callback reference inspiration. Was that to 2001: A Space Odyssey? But was it that, or was it some other sci-fi property? Because I feel like I also heard something similar in one of the Star Trek movies featuring the original series cast. So Maybe. But that music was definitely very familiar and reminded me of another sci-fi property. If you remember, let me know, because I don't. But I do kind of like that. In the music they are maybe calling back to some other sci-fi properties, which would be just great. You know, references and all that. It's really how it, you know, use your emotions from one scene so you do a musically similar thing so people have those same emotions coming towards them. Which I think is an excellent storytelling mechanism. And the rest of the music in this scene was, you know, it was really just spectacular. I could talk about other specific examples, but I think I got the two key examples. And of course the music at the end of the episode, which I should real quick discuss, which kind of continues that more melancholy theme or tone to the music that we've seen in this episode and the last episode as well, which I think was a very good choice. When I saw Vader, I kind of half expected them to do the Imperial March, but I'm glad they didn't. They might have done some musical keys from the references to the Imperial March while Vader was on screen. If it was subtle, and the breathing alone is what helps identify Vader, not the music, though it does certainly help. But really the only other thing to say is that this episode, it was a great but somber episode. There are a couple of my predictions that I kind of like, it's a possibility that didn't occur. I'm fine with that. Because what we got was just a good story. And what is the deal with Star Destroyers going down when Jedi on board during Order 66? I mean, this is at least the second, if not the third time that this has happened in canon. Who even knows about Legends? Which probably did happen. You know, the first one we saw for sure and confirmed was Cal Kestis. His master sabotaged their Star Destroyer above Braca, and it goes down. Then, of course, we get this venture with Ahsoka and Rex, but Maul's the one who does it, and Ahsoka and Rex were never planning on actually destroying the Star Destroyer, just Maul did it because he wanted to, I guess. And then maybe in Fallen Order, some Jedi who were above Zepho, because there was a Star Destroyer event or crashed there, and it's kind of implied in some areas that maybe that Order 66 brought down that Star Destroyer, but it's not confirmed. And I do wonder what plan in this episode of Clone Wars does that Star Destroyer go down? I know it's not Zephyr, obviously, because there were two Jedi there. Yeah, that's how I know it's not Zephyr. Plus they say it's a moon and Zephyr's not a moon. But I'm curious, what moon did it crash down on? Was it near the planet where we find Rex on? That was my first thought where I saw that. I also thought the planet from the D Squad arc of the Clone Wars. That planet had also popped into my head because one of those two planets, whether it was a planet and the moon, did look somewhat similar. Alas, I do not know, but I hope to find out. But with this episode, the Clone Wars is finally over. And it's kind of bittersweet. It's like, we got a proper conclusion to the Clone Wars. But you know what? Dave Filoni still likes teasing stuff. Like, even though we know what's going to happen to Rex and Ahsoka in the long run, we're still like, but what happens right now? I know the Ahsoka novel addresses parts of it, but no. More about, like, when did they go their separate ways? No. When did Rex meet up with Worf and Gregor? And that kind of stuff. Like, those are questions that I still want to know. It's like, Dave Filoni is a master storyteller, and he knows how to leave seeds for potential continuations and speculations in his stories. And he does that at the end of this episode, nevertheless. But still, even though he does that, he does give us a satisfying conclusion, which I think only proves to show that you can conclude something but still leave things open-ended. And I think that's a tribute to when you have a good story where you can still leave minor things as open threads, but you conclude the larger story as a whole. That's the best way I can try to explain it, but yes, he does successfully conclude the story, but in his trademark way, he still leaves some things for us to wonder about. But as the Clone Wars has ended, so must this review. If you have anything you would like to add or comment on, please let me know in the comment section. I would love to hear from you. And if you haven't done so already, please be sure to like the video if you enjoyed this video. And also to check out the links in the description. We have my social media, Facebook and Twitter if you would like to give a follow. Also is my Discord server if you would like to join, and my Patreon page if you would like to support this channel. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on future content. Even though the Clone Wars is ending, I still have a lot of content planned. Also, be sure to check out the video or the playlist on screen now. And as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the Force be with you, always.